You're listening to Life of the Record, where artists look back on the making of a classic album. My name is Dan Nordheim. Dean Wareham formed Luna in 1991 after the breakup of Galaxy 500. Upon signing with Elektra Records, Dean Wareham brought in Justin Harwood, formerly of The Chills, on bass. Next, former Feelies drummer Stanley Dembski joined, and Luna released their debut record, Luna Park, in 1992. In 1993, Luna expanded to a four-piece, as Sean Eden joined on guitar. They released Bewitched in 1994, followed by their third album, Penthouse, in 1995. In this episode, Dean Wareham talks through the making of Penthouse on its 25th anniversary.
This is Dean Wareham, and I'm here to talk about the making of Luna's Penthouse album. Penthouse is probably my favorite Luna record. I mean, there's things I like on every record, but I think it's the one where it all kind of gelled to us. Never quite sure why that is, why some records turn out better than others, but it's not a question of effort or attention. You know, if people could make a great record every time, they would. I feel like some bands, their first record is their best and they just get worse from there. But I feel like with Luna, our first album, Luna Park, we weren't really a band yet because I had signed to Elektra and then I brought Justin in and then we'd written the songs and then Stanley came in, but we hadn't been gigging together. And then the next one, Bewitched, felt more like a band. But this one, Penthouse especially so, it just seemed like we really honed in on what it was that Luna was all about.
In the tiny, tiny hours between the evening and the day, we have placed our final bets. We have come out to play.
We made the record really in two sections, about 4 weeks with an engineer named Mario Salvati at a studio called Sorcerer. And we picked Mario because we liked the television reunion album that he had done. It's his work with Tom Verlaine. You're coming out of the 80s, so I think sometimes the sounds you look for are a reaction against what came before. I think what we were trying to do with Luna is make sort of natural sounding records, that is, you know, get away from gated reverbs and just the big sounds of the 80s. Which is sort of why we picked Victor Van Vught to do Bewitched too, because his stuff with like Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds sounded sort of natural to us, and that television album we thought sounded great. So we started with Mario. The first thing we did, now that I think back, we recorded an EP with Mario, just a few tracks. We said we'll try a few tracks to see how it goes. And we recorded Chinatown, Bonnie and Clyde, the Serge Gainsbourg song, and Thank You for Sending Me an Angel, the cover of that Talking Heads song. That EP, we listened to that, we're like, oh, this is the best thing we've done as a band. We were allowed to go back. You know, when you sign to a major label, there's always a discussion over who's going to make your record. But our A&R guy, Terry Tolkien, kind of let us do what we wanted.
Fancy drinks and lucky toasts. I like this time the most. You're out all night chasing girlies. You're late to work.
Chinatown is at least partially written about Terry Tolkien. The lines, you're out all night chasing girlies, you're late to work and go home earlies, which I know is a spectacularly bad rhyme. It annoys some people, but I kind of like it. I like Edward Lear a lot, who's one of the pioneers of the limerick and a guy who invents his own words. Yeah, Chinatown, I guess it's just sort of about, maybe what you might call a drinking song. It's about being out on the town. Justin came up with the chords and the riff, the ba-ba-ba-bow, ba-ba-ba-bow. So that one, Chinatown, is really a Harwood Wareham composition. Within a couple of months, we were back again at Sorcerer Studio, which was on Mercer Street, just above Canal. And there used to be a lot of recording studios in Manhattan. Now so many of them are gone. It was a cool place. They sort of had a whole building there in Soho. They got a big studio in the basement, but we were mostly in the B studio, which was way up top. Sideshow by the Seashore, that one is a super cool riff that Sean came up with a bent note on the whammy bar. It took a long time to record that one. I'm thinking now. We've got a theremin in. None of us knew how to play the theremin, but Justin sort of figured it out. Sideshow by the Seashore was a club. Well, before it was a club, I guess it was what you would call a freak show out in Coney Island. In the late 80s and early 90s, a friend of mine put on Friday night shows out there, in indie rock shows, and people would go out there. And one time I was doing a solo set, and anyway, there was this huge storm, and everyone had to come in off the boardwalk, and there's a lyric in there about that. An electrical storm has caught us in a trap. It really is a tongue twister, as is Sideshow by the Seashore. When you're used to hearing a song a certain way, and then you hire someone to mix it, and they throw stuff out or they add things, sometimes it's just a period of adjustment while you get used to it. Because it's difficult at first. You expect to hear the song the way that you had it in your mind. But that's why you hire those people, I think. There's another version of Sideshow by the Seashore that's mixed by Mario Salvati, and that's a rough mix. It's got a lot more of Sean's extra guitars. It has 5 guitar tracks that are extra stuff. When Pat came in to mix it, he was like, no, I just want to strip it down to that one riff, and I'll have that double. That's the best thing about the song, is just over and over again. So no, he didn't loop it, but he just focused on that, and then he brought in the theremin. He said, let's get a theremin. That would be a cool sounding thing. And it all worked out in the end. We decided to bring Pat McCarthy in to mix the record because your record company, they always want, if they're trying to get you on a radio, they think, well, we should bring in someone to mix it who's mixed songs that have been on the radio. Pat had mixed that Counting Crows hit and I guess T-Bone Burnett produced. He'd worked with him, and he'd worked with U2. Pat came in, and I think for the first time in my life, I was sort of pushed. I had a producer saying, like, not just like, oh yeah, that's good, let's move on, but like, no, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. And he had me re-sing a lot of things. Pat's thing was like, well, I'm not just here to mix the record, I'm here to help you finish the record. And I think he did an amazing job with this record. The attention to detail, I had never worked that slowly before, that agonizingly. But he would sit there for just hours, just adjusting, tweaking the vocal on each syllable, just making sure that it sits exactly right. My early recording experiences are with Kramer at the helm, where it was always like one take, like, next, that's it. And you're like, well, I made a mistake. He's like, I like the mistake, we'll leave the mistake. Whereas Pat McCarthy would sort of be like, if there were like 8 bars of something, he'd like, well, he did 1 and 3 are really good, but 2's a little wobbly.
"17 dreams for you. They'll all be gone tomorrow. Pull me a face and say something witchy. It's time to get out of your bed."
Moon Palace. I have a version of that with different lyrics, but I think I've destroyed it. I didn't like it. When we left Sorcerer, I did not have, maybe I had the chorus down, but I did not have the verses down. And at any rate, Pat was going to have me re-sing it. Moon Palace was named for the Paul Auster book that I was reading at the time, Moon Palace, which he named for a Chinese restaurant. Yesterday on Twitter, I saw that David Chang of Momofuku has opened a restaurant called Moon Palace. And someone's asked him, have you done this in tribute to the Luna song? And I happen to know he's a huge Luna fan, so I'm thinking maybe he did.
Give me a slug from the wonderful jug. It's time to get out of your head. Well, we're traveling light, gonna speed through the night. Only now you recall it means nothing at all. You were stuck in a dream and you wanted to scream, but it's nothing at all. No, it's nothing.
I'm not sure what this song's about. Maybe it's another drinking song, but it also references one of my heroes, Christopher Boyce, the Falcon and the Falcon and the Snowman. You got no choice, feel like Christopher Boyce is the lyric. One of my earliest political experiences. Before I'd moved to New York, I was living in Australia. I was like 12 years old. The Australian government was sort of ousted in murky circumstances with the help of the Queen's representative and also apparently the CIA doing all this stuff. Anyway, I referenced Christopher Boyce. He worked at TRW and he discovered that the CIA was trying to destabilize the Australian government and overthrow them. He started sneaking secrets out of TRW in a potted plant with the help of his coke dealer friend. They went down to Mexico and was selling secrets to the Russians. Of course, he got busted and put in jail and escaped from jail, famously. He's now out again. He's free, and he's still loves working with the birds, the falcons, that is.
You got no choice, feel like Christopher Boyce. Time to get out of your bed. Words you don't understand are all making sense tonight.
Moon Palace is one of my favorite Luna songs. It features great guitar solo by Tom Verlaine. Mario said he could get Tom in to play on the record if we gave him some studio time, so that was the deal we did. Tom liked to work late, so it really didn't matter. He'd come in at 10 p.m. and work for hours. He plays on Moon Palace, and he plays long guitar solo on 23 Minutes in Brussels. It's great listening to him play. He doesn't use any pedals or any tricks. It's just his fingers and the Stratocaster or Jazzmaster or whatever he's playing. He uses the volume knob. He sort of swells. But whatever he's doing, you know it's him immediately. It's He's a unique player, which I think is the highest compliment you can pay a musician, really. Not that they can shred. Well, that's a different kind of compliment. Not that they can, do incredible things at high speed, but that they have a sound that only they have.
But it's nothing at all. No, it's nothing at all.
The technology and then in the 90s, it was kind of the worst. I mean, the best at the time, but you had these, you would have 24 tracks and then you would have another 24 track machine slave to it so you could have extra tracks, 48, and they would sync up, but sort of slowly. It's kind of clumsy, or it uses a lot of tape. And with Pro Tools now, obviously you can see things as well as hear them, so I think it's a lot easier to go in and fix things, or maybe if you had to do something, you needed 8 bars to be perfect, you could just take a couple that are and loop them. But back then that was all a lot more difficult to do. So it's painstaking. Even comping a vocal was sort of a painstaking. Comping means you sing like 3 or 6 or 20 takes of the vocal, and then you go through and pick out the best line from each and make a composite. When you're pushing buttons on tape machines, it's a pretty slow thing. And Pat was very good at it, but when I'm having to go in and pick out, maybe I like this syllable here. And now, as I say, it's just so easy because it's all on a drop-down menu in front of you. You just pick out the syllable you want and cut and paste it. I know a lot of young bands now who are obsessed with tape, and for those of us who recorded in the 90s, we're over it. Double feature. That took a long time in the studio too. That's very different on the version that's on the Penthouse Deluxe. You can hear a wholly different drum track. Pat was mixing that. Yeah, he had Stanley come back and redo the drums. He had me and Sean playing bass on it too. He wasn't happy with the bass lines, so there's 3 different people playing bass. And I think we were kind of like, what is he doing? It's so much better than the rough mix of it. It really came to life. We actually had a gig. The mixing was taking longer than we anticipated, actually. We thought it was going to take 2 weeks, maybe a day per song. But so we had a gig up in Boston, and we left Pat. We're like, okay, you're doing double feature. By the time we come back, you'll be finished with double feature, and you'll have something else up. So we came back on Sunday. He was still working on it.
I don't know why.
But you can hear all that work. Cool stuff in there, strange sounds. I think it starts with this weird sound that you hear sometimes of one tape machine catching up with the other tape machine as it slows down. It sort of makes a weird... Listen for that. The chimpanzees, yes, we listened back, and I have seen the chimpanzees. I'm talking about going to the zoo. And when that line goes by, Pat was like, do you hear the chimpanzees? And I was like, yes, I do, actually. He'd been in... I don't even know what that sound is. I know it's not chimpanzees, but it could be.
Who am I gonna be? What am I gonna do? I've been fooling everybody. I've been uptown at the zoo. I have seen the chimpanzee in the afternoon sun. Quiet in the steakhouse, and my legs have turned to jelly. I don't know why.
Generally, we would do probably 3 or 4 takes of a song. We would do a take. Our drummer Stanley would often check it on the metronome as we were listening back, wanting to know for himself that he hadn't fluctuated. We did not play to a click. Again, this is we were not using Pro Tools, so now everybody does everything to a click, but we rarely did anything to a click. We didn't need to. We had Stanley. I love playing Friendly Advice and 23 Minutes, some of the long ones. We do play these songs a lot. 23 Minutes in Brussels, I must have played 2,300 times. No, I don't know. I played it a lot. That song, I took the title. It's an interesting trick for songwriting. You steal someone else's title and you write your own song around it. Or take someone's first line and write your own song about it. But 23 Minutes in Brussels is a bootleg album of the band Suicide, opening for Elvis Costello in Brussels. The gig lasts 23 minutes. They're booed off the stage. Someone steals their microphone. And I think this happened to them a lot as they opened for Elvis Costello or for the Cars. Rick Ocasek was a huge fan and produced their record, but they would stand out there and start playing their music and people would throw stuff at them. They just projected something on stage that was like dark and confrontational, I think.
Left my hotel in the city. Everything was clear and set. You were on your way and sitting pretty. That was just a bait and switch.
23 Minutes in Brussels. There are not a lot of lyrics in there, really. But I think sometimes those are the best kind of lyrics. A haiku or just things that repeat instead of like Tugboat or whatever. It's just a few, that Galaxy 500 song, it's just a few lyrics, but it's evocative. I had come up with a riff that dum dum down, dum dum down, dum dum down, dum dum down. Stanley and Justin made a great contribution too. I mean, that's the thing. I feel like 23 Minutes in Brussels, if someone else came to do it, I'm like, well, it's not that great a song, but it's a great performance and it's a great groove. And so it's all about what you do with it collectively rather than what it would be if someone sat there with a piano and played that song. It's not a particularly beautiful song.
Say a prayer for you and me. Say a prayer. Tell me, do you miss me?
So I play a little solo at the start of the song, and maybe I guess I play one in the middle too, a shorter one. But mostly it's Tom Verlaine. He's got that little tease, and you can tell him again. It's sort of that sound that he's using the volume knob with his pinky, just sort of swelling into it. It sounds like him. He pays a lot of attention to guitar tones. He's sort of got had a little suitcase full of tubes or whatever. He knows about all like different tubes and their characteristics. 23 Minutes in Brussels was actually originally even a bit longer than this, but Tom Verlaine said that. He's like, I think you might improve this if you trim the guitar solo a little bit. So maybe we left a minute out of there. You can hear the longer version again on Penthouse Deluxe. I think we titled it 24 Minutes in Brussels. He did a few takes, but he knew exactly what he was doing. He really did. He was sort of like, well, back me up, stop, back me up like 40 seconds, punch me in exactly here where you go to this. And he was really quick with it. Tom played that guitar solo, and even he was like, yeah, that was good. That was a good one. We were all kind of dazzled by it. Side 2, well, really we didn't plan this as side 1 and side 2 because this is the CD era, the compact disc era, so we just thought of it as sequencing the 10 songs. But now side 2 kicks off with track 6, Lost in Space. That's a beautiful sounding song. Lost in Space. Okay, so sonically, I think that what's really cool on that is the mellotron and also a lot of stuff that Sean's doing on the whammy bar where Pat was slow the tape machine down to half speed and have him play this bend, double that with having it in real time. I mean, maybe you can hear that Pat worked with U2. You can hear that sort of stuff in there, that atmospheric. We went on to make another record with him, and he always wanted to be something else going on just besides a rock and roll quartet bashing out their songs. So you learn from everyone you work with. That's why it's good to work with different people.
You heard it all before. They said your case was tragic. You heard it all before. And now they say it's magic. You need time off.
Now that I spend more time on vocals, you don't want to sound too soft and you don't want to sound too hard. So you don't want to sound mean, but you don't want to sound sap. You want to be somewhere right in between. And sometimes I'll do a vocal and I'll think it's really great, and then I listen later, I'm like, oh no, there's too much emotion in that. I'm like trying too hard to sell it. I have to go back and strip some out of it. But I think Lost in Space hits that sweet spot, or it's in a good register for me. It's delicate, but hopefully not too delicate.
And you know there's something else, but you can't give it a name. Someone's selling all your heroes, and it seems such a shame. You heard it all before. They said your case was tragic. You heard it all before.
Rhythm King. Rhythm King is named for the drum machine my friend Angel gave me called the Maestro Rhythm King. I had this video at home made by James Burton, the guitar legend, showing all his tricks. He played with, he was Elvis's band leader, played with Ricky Nelson on that TV show. Anyway, amazing guitar player. I could never get close to his, I could never play anything like that. He's incredible. They had this one riff on, I don't even know what song it's on, but it's the riff that opens Rhythm King. We had Stanley double that on the vibraphone. Stanley is a trained percussionist. He could play the vibes too. I'm not sure what this song's about either, where I take a dig at the dead Richard Nixon. While not an overtly political album, I do mention both Richard Nixon and Christopher Boyce, so I try and get these things in here without hitting people over the head. But again, Rhythm King is probably another drinking song. I don't mean drinking heavily. I was never a heavy drinker. I just mean going out at night. It's about someone whose girlfriends have gone out for a drink without him, I think, if it's about anything.
Your girlfriend's met for cocktails, leaving you behind. Giggles round the table, never you mind. Wait for an answer, good things will come, good things will happen, you're gonna get some, good things are coming.
Say that about Penthouse too. I like Penthouse more than Bewitched. I think the lyrics are much better on Penthouse than they are on Bewitched. Maybe we were rushed into Bewitched. Maybe I was just smarter by then. But for whatever reason, it's a better group of songs, I think. The lyrics and the music evolve separately, and then like I've got lyric ideas on one side of my brain and musical ideas on the other, and then the difficult thing is pulling them together, trying to squeeze your clever thoughts into a song. I guess really the first thing is the melody. That's the way that we would write in Luna. We would sort of jam together and I would start singing a melody. And then once that's stuck, then you have to cram the words into the melody. That's the way I do it anyway. It's difficult. It's interesting. Sometimes I think there are albums I love or songs I love and I listen to them, and if you ask me to tell me what the lyrics were, I'd be like, I have no idea what the lyrics are. But it doesn't matter. It matters if they're horrible. It matters if they're really bad. But, well, sometimes there's one really clever one that sticks with you that you love, but they don't have to be great all the way through, I think, from beginning to end, because you got the music to help you along. Kalamazoo, well, that grew out of an instrumental piece I had done for my wife at the time. Had made a short movie called Kalamazoo, and I did the music for it. So I had this piece called Kalamazoo. On slide guitar, I'm kind of a clumsy slide player, but that's another video I had. I had some good slide players video, and I never really bothered to get good at it, but it's good enough.
Week is too short, but the days are so long. Living with sick people makes me feel so strong.
That's where ideas for songs come from, is from other songs often. When you hear something you like, you can either cover it or you can steal from it. Both are valid. Both have been valid anyway. We're getting into scary times now because things are getting very litigious. Going after hit songs, trying to sue people for similarities, things that in the past I think you would just say, well, that's nothing, whatever, that's just common. But I feel like after the success, the lawsuit against Robin Thicke over Blurred Lines, and the Tom Petty getting the publishing from Sam Smith for what I think is really nothing. I don't know, it's getting scary now, but so, yeah, by studying, that's where ideas come from. They don't just come out in a vacuum. Lyrically, too.
If the war is over and the monsters have won, if the war is over, I'm gonna have some fun. The sun peeks in on an afternoon drunk. All the green bottles
Kalamazoo is another drinking song. It's about drinking in the daytime, I think. I can sing drinking songs because I've never really had a problem. When it comes to drink and drugs, there's two kinds of people. Some people have a go button and a stop button. I know I do. Like I can stop when it makes sense to stop. I can look at the clock and be like, oh, it's 4 o'clock, I'm going to stop. But other people only have the go button. They just go, go, go. We used to have fun. We had some late nights, but it never was destructive or dangerous. Not to any of us in the band. I guess I've seen other people's lives fall apart, subsequently take a turn, but not ours. Our A&R guy, Terry Tolkien, who Chinatown is about, by the next record, Pop Tent, he was gone. He was a great music fan. It didn't function very well in the corporate environment of Elektra Records, I think. And yeah, he used to, he would smoke a lot of weed, whatever. He'd do all kinds of stuff, which they generally tolerated. But they would tolerate it more if you had a hit record. Hedgehog, which was picked to be a single from this record, even though I think it's probably the weakest song. But these were the grunge years, and that was the grungiest sounding song. So I think that when they go to the alternative radio department and they're like, is there anything here that could get played on the radio? They said Hedgehog. It did not get played on the radio. You can't fool people. We were not a grunge band.
Are you a fox or a hedgehog? Do you care anymore? Wasting time, wasting time, wasting time all the while. I don't know what she's saying, but I hate it anyway.
When they're trying to get you played on the radio, you're competing against a lot of other people trying to get on the radio from other labels, and you're competing against bands on your own label. And if they're, got a meeting over at MTV and they're like, well, we got the Better Than Ezra record or this Third Eye Blind, I don't know. They were taking off. They were doing well. We were always being told by the label, like, we need to come up with a hit song. But it's like, if you don't do it, the band will get dropped. But we didn't get dropped, and we made another record. But then finally, on the 5th record, it finally came true. That's okay. I know we were signed to a major label, and they are in the business of having hit records. And this is why I don't get, we can get angry when we get dropped or anything, because you can sort of understand that. They're not doing it just for fun, and they're not interested in putting out a record that just sold 100,000 copies. Nowadays, this would be an enormous success, actually, sales-wise. But back then, they've got a big office. They want to make records that sell millions, and that's the business they're in. I don't think I ever really believed that was going to happen for Luna. I don't know. I think I have kind of a strange voice, and we didn't spend time. We didn't listen to alternative radio or modern rock radio. We were just trying to write the best song we could each time, make each song the best it was. But we didn't think about writing hits. We wouldn't know how to do it, And I think this record has aged really well because it doesn't sound like, it sounds like Luna doing their own thing. It doesn't sound like 10 other grunge bands where the vocals and drums are the really loud thing.
Can you make time for me? Would you make time for me? I will wait patiently. It's no good, it's no fun.
Hedgehog refers, there's a line in there, are you a fox or a hedgehog? Which people think it's from a Woody Allen movie, and he does mention it, but it's actually from an essay by Isaiah Berlin about Tolstoy and his theory. I think he's really just having fun. He didn't mean it to be taken that seriously, that there's two kinds of writers or artists. There are hedgehogs and there are foxes. The fox has wider-ranging knowledge, knows all kinds of things, whereas the hedgehog only knows one thing. that they do very well. So I'm definitely not a fox. I would say if I'm lucky, I'm a hedgehog. But you have to decide. And his theory was that Tolstoy couldn't decide if he was a hedgehog or a fox, and that this contradiction drove him crazy. I don't know. Freakin' and Peakin', that sounds like another drinking song, drugging song. I guess it is. It's about staying up, having taken too much of something. We did take ecstasy now and then, and that's what, if Freakin' and Peakin' seems to be about a drug, that's probably what it's about. Pat went and mastered it and came back, and we all took E and listened to it. And maybe that's a cheat, but because it makes you feel good about yourself and about the music. But you know what? Some music sounds good on ecstasy and some does not. And I think there's a lot of sort of sparkle in this record, and it sounds good that way.
Give me an answer, wrap it up to the top and back. Freaking and peeking, losing touch, can't tell the wrong from right.
Freakin' and Peakin' is in this tuning of, it's in the Keith Richards, well, the tuning that he used a lot, the slack key. It's sort of a G/D. It's an open G, I guess, but it's slack because it tunes everything down a little bit. And he was probably taught this by Graham Parsons or something. Once he discovered that, a lot of the Stones hits are written with that because it just lends a certain flavor to the chords. Freakin' and Peakin'. Stanley plays great on that. Great drum track. I don't think we knew what was going to be the album closer, but looking at that, that's a pretty obvious one to be the album closer. That one, I think, Freakin' and Peakin', that was the one song where Pat's like, this is just like, you guys just jamming. We do that sometimes. We don't get too annoying. We try and stick with the groove, and it's not about virtuosity. It's about, maintaining the groove, hopefully. Generally, we knew the structure of the songs. Just often the lyrics weren't written, but I guess these long ones, we don't actually know exactly how long they're going to go on for. It just kind of, we let it rip and see what happens. We have some idea of where it's going, but now we know. Now we know exactly where they're going. Now there's a map that we can go back and listen to the record and be like, okay, it builds up here and then it goes to quiet. And then it was a good time to be in Luna. We were having fun, I think. I mean, not that there weren't some struggles in the making of this record, and was it a little more difficult than we anticipated it, but yeah, I guess we took I'd say this record took 7 weeks to make, which was certainly the longest I had ever spent making a record. But that's, nothing compared to some other people. And when you're signed to a multi-record deal at a major label, it's this impetus, I suppose, to get off the road, and you're like, okay, we better make a record so we can get paid again. So there's good and bad in that. It's not a terribly good reason to make a record, but on the other hand, actually, it is a good reason to make a record. It's pretty understandable, and like I say, it gets you working. Well, Penthouse remains my favorite Luna record. It's unusual that you hear a record that works from beginning to end, and I think this one does. That just kind of casts a spell and maintains this mood from track 1 through track 10. Oftentimes it's just like 2 interesting songs and a bunch of filler, but I think this one, Penthouse, really captured us at our best.
Visit lifeoftherecord.com for more information about Luna. You'll also find a link to stream or purchase Penthouse. Thanks for listening.